Welcome to the bright side of aging. My name is Ike Engelbaum. I'm a pharmacist and the publisher of AmericanSeniorGazette.org. It has wisely been said, you cannot help getting older, but you can help getting old. And it's also been said, age is a matter of the mind. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. My purpose in doing this show is so that I can interview interesting people like Sir Arthur Wiggins, as I like to call him. Arthur Wiggins is an author, scientist. In fact, he sent me some background information and actually claims he's retired. I keep telling him he's refired. Arthur Wiggins read every science fiction book in the neighborhood library when he was 10 years old and is still waiting for science to catch up. His college career included degrees from Notre Dame and the University of Michigan. After practicing aerospace engineering for a few years, Wiggins began teaching physics at Oakland Community College and continued for 37 years. Recently retired or refired, Wiggins still teaches an occasional class, but mostly enjoys writing, visiting family, tennis, bridge, or riding bicycles with his wife. His wife Barbara and actually have their home right here in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, Oakland County. Wow. Welcome, Arthur. It's nice to see you again, sir.
Thanks.
I didn't recognize you without your tennis racket.
It's right outside in the car, no problem.
I see. But do you have any tennis balls? That's the question.
Yeah, but they're cold. Cold in the car.
But we get them on the court and they'll be hot.
Yeah, you got it.
And you wrote this great book, The Joy of Physics. And
this thing.
Yes, this thing, right. And of all the joys I've had, I must admit, Arthur, physics is not my primary thing when I think about joy. But go ahead. Tell me, why did you write this book?
Isaac, now wait a minute. Let me ask you about joy for a minute here before we talk about physics.
Yes, right.
You know, Isaac, do you like puzzles?
I like puzzles. I can't do them. My wife, Judy, does.
Judy likes puzzles. I know that for a fact.
Right.
But you know, a lot of people like puzzles, and there are all kind of puzzles. I know, I like to work on crossword puzzles. They're a lot of fun. I like to play the game of bridge. That's a puzzle. That's a lot of fun. And when you solve a puzzle, or even if you make good progress, there's a kind of a feeling that you get that's like, there's a satisfaction. There's joy in solving puzzles. So the thing about physics is physics solves puzzles. And the puzzle that physics works on is the entire universe. So you can't get a bigger puzzle than that, and we're still working on it, and oh man, we have a lot to do. But we do make some progress every now and again, and when we do, that's joy at its best.
Well, you know, actually when you think about it, if you come up with any sort of an idea that suddenly, what is that whole saying about what's the point of it? And once you get the point, usually there's a light bulb that lights up. And
there's the light bulb. There's the light bulb that lit up above Einstein's fingers.
What a segue.
Isaac, you're good.
Anyway, the funny thing is not to get us off track, the point though, when the light goes on and you suddenly have this great idea, the next step, of course, is to implement it. And I must admit, although I did not have a very joyful time in my physics classes, I struggled and I fought. But the facts that I did remember, I must admit to you, this is a confession, the joy I have now is that there are certain things I see happening that some of those lessons in physics tie in. They say, like this may seem Mickey Mouse, and you probably know the principle of it. When I went to Wayne State, and there were certain areas of the campus when it was really windy, suddenly there are certain tunnel areas that suddenly the wind increased, and that, of course, is one of the physics principles.
Sure.
Right, isn't that?
Think about it this way, like when you narrow the area where whatever it is has to flow through, you still have to get the same stuff through it. So how does it get through? If you're going to have to get the same amount of material, it has to go faster.
See, there you go. That was such a joyful experience. Now, speaking of joy and all, I'm a very visual person, and I like cartoons, and I understand you got, well, I know you have cartoons in the book. Tell me what prompted you to put cartoons in there.
Well, part of it is because I do think there is joy in physics, because I've had a lot of joy over many years. And part of my joy is every once in a while when you see a cartoon, that little light goes on over my head. So I spent a lot of time and a lot of effort finding a really terrific cartoonist. And the guy that draws cartoons for many of the books that I've written, including this one, is Sidney Harris. Sidney Harris draws cartoons mostly for the New Yorker. But I managed to persuade him, or I should say, one of my friends persuaded him to draw some cartoons for us for the various books that we've written. And I think there's additional joy because as you're reading the book, because books get dry.
Oh, tell me
about
it.
So you're reading the book and you turn a page and suddenly you turn the page and there looking at you big as life is a Sidney Harris cartoon.
Wow.
Now here's a Sidney Harris cartoon. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a Sidney Harris cartoon that's Benjamin Franklin dragging along some balloons and a key and all that. So then if you're learning about electricity, which is dry and difficult, and suddenly you think about Benjamin Franklin, the mind has a joyful experience because it can go a little bit beyond just the physics.
Well, you actually, there's also the visual component, and I must admit I never visualized until your cartoon Benjamin Franklin with a balloon. So now every time it's an association.
That's good.
Now, as far as the book, who did you write the book for? Who would you like to read the book and maybe have some light bulbs go up?
I wrote the book for adults.
Okay.
Because adults have this wonderful bound of intuition that's all over the place. They can intuit things and they have experience. So many things make sense to adults. When you've lived a long time, then things make a lot of sense, and partially because you've made mistakes, because a lot of us learn by making mistakes, and Lord knows I've made plenty of them over many years. But you make mistakes, you learn things, and then when you recognize the possibilities again, and you don't necessarily make the mistake, but you figure it out and do it a different way and it works better, there's joy in that too. So I wrote the book for adults. And over the years at teaching at Oakland Community College, you know, our students, they said there was a median age of about 29. But the interesting part to me was that 29 as a median was very nice, but were there many 29-year-olds? No, there were a bunch of 18-year-olds and a bunch of 40-year-olds. And let me tell you, when my physics classes had some 40-year-olds in them, oh my gosh, things took on a different hue because the 40-year-olds had experience. So the 40-year-olds probably will do a better job. Now I say 40, but you know what? I'm afraid 80 is the new 40.
Don't be afraid. I'm closer to 80 than I am to 40, so I'm glad.
Good point. I thought about that.
See, I learned that from physics. The longer you're around, the older you become.
I've heard that
But you know,
too.
it's interesting that really, when you analyze it, and it's been said different ways, that you really don't learn from your successes. It's really the mistakes and what have you. And really you got to take out of the fact that you go into the personal lives of the physicists, which is really interesting. How did you put that stuff together?
Well, what happens is that within this book, I also thought about the personal side of things because there's a human side to physics and to science generally speaking that I think needs to be revealed. In fact, I'm working on a book right now, Isaac. You'll hear about it more eventually. But what happens is that when you look at the lives of the people that do physics, you find that they make plenty of mistakes. And so within this book, I have a few mini biographies that talk about some of the mistakes as well as the successes that people have made as they try to understand about the universe. Now, we'll make a lot more mistakes as we go along, but that's okay. We're people. And as people, we make these kind of mistakes.
Right.
And as people, we learn and things get better.
Right.
So there's some mini biographies here that you'll see how some of these people progressed.
You know, it's interesting, since you're using a light bulb, Thomas Edison, as you well know, did not come up with the light bulb right away. You talk about mistakes. Rumor has it, and I've read it from different sources, that he tried about 10,000 times before it actually clicked in. And
Isaac, I have told you a million times not to exaggerate. I think it was only about 3,000 or 4,000.
Okay, all right. Anyway, taking even 3,000 or 4,000, a friend of his came along and criticized him. Well, you've made 3,000 or 4,000 mistakes. He said, no, I didn't make 3,000 or 4,000 mistakes. I found out 3,000 or 4,000 ways that it does not work, and that's what made it work, hence the light bulb. And you know, the truth of it is that unless you make enough mistakes, you'll never really have great successes. And it's true in the business profession as well. I do a show on entrepreneurship, and I cannot tell you how many successful entrepreneurs tell me the more mistakes they've made, the more successful they have become. Now, you're in the process of writing another book. How long did it take you to write this book?
In a sense, I suppose, I started writing this book the minute I started teaching, because a beginning teacher makes a lot of mistakes too. And I made a lot of mistakes and didn't present things the way people would understand them well. So it took me a while to figure that out. But eventually you get to the point where, yeah, this is all going to work. So I started writing the book the minute I started teaching, which was, oh gosh, 40 years ago now.
I see, wow.
But to really get it down on paper and get it to the point where an editor can edit it and it can be published and all this stuff, that was about 6 months of a lot of big effort.
I see, wow.
So
40
it takes
years.
a lot of time to do that, but you distill 40 years worth into 6 months, that's quite a lot.
Oh yeah, are you kidding? It's that tunnel effect, right?
Yeah, it is. There's the wind tunnel, because boy, it went fast.
Right, I hate to put you on the spot, which you is on.
I think I'm on the spot.
What makes your book different than other books on physics?
Not all physics books want to be joyful. That is, there are many physics books that don't have quite as many illustrations, cartoons, joyful examples, and so forth. I'll give you another one, Isaac. I have some experiments within this book that can use very simple items. For example, yo-yos play a very big role in this book. And have you seen slinkies? Oh my gosh, there are several experiments with slinkies. The one that Isaac particularly likes, I don't know if he'll admit this or not, but I have an experiment that involves using the microwave oven and chocolate chips. And it reveals how fast the speed of light is in an approximate way. And the beauty is that at the end, you can eat the results. It's an edible experiment. I can make s'mores, and did. Oh my gosh, it was fun making mistakes on that one. Oops, have to eat this batch.
Well, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, you said the book is written for adults, so if you're in that category that your physics training or schooling wasn't that joyful, do you feel some of the joy can be indeed instilled, even though you didn't like it at first?
I've had a number of people tell me that after looking at this book, and after listening to me sometimes as we get into conversations like this, they say, you know, if I had that kind of a presentation when I was taking physics, I think I would have learned it a lot better. And you know, there's some truth to that too, because although I did write this for adults, if you're not quite an adult yet and you stumble onto a book like this, you might find it will stretch you a little bit. Stretching is not all bad.
Okay.
Sometimes stretching will get you into a spot that will be very helpful. So maybe the young people might not be too badly off anyway, but I recommend it to adults, because some people who have studied physics earlier and had bad experiences, they go to this and they say, oh my gosh, is that what that was about?
And they become joyful.
Joy.
Joy.
It's everywhere.
It's been a delight to talk to you, Arthur. Unfortunately, Sir Arthur, we've run out of time, and I got to take a break. And we'll get some more joy together, I'm sure, soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. We'll take a brief break, and we're going to be right back.
Prescription drug abuse is a national epidemic. The new in way to obtain drugs is through parents' or grandparents' medicine chest. Removing prescriptions from your cabinet is the best way to keep drugs out of the hands of our young people. We've got to work together to protect our teens, our seniors, and our environment. Clean out your medicine cabinet today. Please participate in Operation Medicine Cabinet and drop off your unwanted or expired prescriptions at one of our law enforcement drop-off sites in Oakland County. We can't ignore this situation anymore.
Welcome back to the bright side of aging, and sitting next to me is Mr. Milton Duerod, and Mr. Duerod is, can I call you Milton?
Yes, please. Please
okay,
do.
all right, good. Then Milton, you, as I got in my notes here, you spent over 30 years in IT. That's it, right? IT?
IT,
I see
yes.
how technologically blessed I am. And you're a computer programmer.
Yes, I was a computer programmer for over 30 years.
And 30 years.
I also was a technical manager for sales as well.
You heard the riddle, how many computer programmers does it take to change a light bulb? The answer, it can't be done because it's a hardware problem. Okay, anyway, so you said to yourself, Milton Duerod, hey, I know enough about this stuff in IT. I'd like to get into something that's more real. So guess what? Milton Duerod decides to go into real estate. How is that for a second? Okay.
Okay, I get the segue.
Okay, all right. And there's another great connection that you and I have, and that is we're both alums of Wayne State University.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you've got a bachelor's degree in computer service.
Computer science.
Mm-hmm. And your master's degree in business from Central Michigan University.
Yes.
So you're a pretty smart person.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So I understand that in your designation, you, Milton Duerod, have an SRES designation. What does that mean?
Well, in real estate terms, SRES stands for Senior Real Estate Specialist. At Motion Realty, where I am, I'm the managing broker. And we're located in Southeast Michigan. We're a full-service real estate brokerage. We do residential and commercial real estate. However, my specialty is senior real estate. So I'm a senior real estate specialist, and that's my designation, recognized by National Association of Realtors.
So in other words, what makes you different is that you are actually been trained and all, and understanding how to deal in the seniors market. Is that it?
That's correct. There are only a limited number of SRES people or senior real estate specialists in Michigan, and in particularly Oakland County. There are only a few of us. So that makes me different. SRES, or a senior real estate specialist designation, it made me it trained me to specifically handle the cares and the responsibilities of the mature adult. So I specialize in those areas where we need more care and more help in different areas. So it's not just real estate when it comes to mature adults. It's the psychological effect. It's the where do I go? What do I do? It's talking to the parents, or I'm not particular parents. The children of the mature adults. It's a lot that's involved, and so it's not just selling real estate or helping them find real estate. It's also, helping them find where to go, find the different communities that are involved, and it's also about helping them with the finances.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, being a pharmacist, I have a pretty good understanding about, from the medical aspect, the same medications and dosage for a younger person is not the same for a senior. So likewise, there's emotional connections that seniors have with their home and where their next move is. And I just wondered, can you share some of the experiences you've had in dealing with the seniors market?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, I found that I had to be more compassionate. and I've developed that. I mean, it's genuine. I am compassionate. I am caring about the individual, and real estate is really a people business. And if you understand that people make the business, then you understand the backgrounds of people and what they're going through. I had one situation where the woman was so attached to her home, even her children could not talk her into moving, although she, had her faculties were declining, and she really needed to move or downsize to either a condo or assisted living facility, and we call them communities now. So I was able to understand her needs and design a specific personalized plan just for her. And that involved either putting a schedule of events on the refrigerator. It involved talking to her almost daily, and then letting her know that I did indeed care, not only to help her move, but I cared about her as a person. Mm-hmm. So we were able to move her in the span of about 3 or 4 months, and to sell her home, so she can have some income and go into the community that she's in now.
So, in other words, you went through the psychological needs as well. It just came to me, and I'm always thinking of weird combinations, and that is that it's a known fact that they're just like in real estate. You've got the designation of a senior real estate specialist. Mm-hmm. There are doctors who specialize in geriatrics, and they're called geriatricians, and they are trained on how to take a little bit longer in talking to that patient. So, and there are geriatricians that connect better, and what's that common buzzword in the medical field? Good bedside manners.
Good bedside manners,
So you,
right.
Milton Duerod, have better housing.
Yeah, and I was going to say, just like a doctor specializes, I specialize in senior real estate.
So you're like a doctor of housing. Now
Okay,
you got
I'll take that.
you got a new designation, DOH. I don't know if it's going to fly there. Anyway,
I go with that.
But you go, all right. But I just wondered, through the training that you had as a senior real estate specialist, are you given additional types of forms to evaluate, do an assessment? Hey, this is your home. Do you sort of visualize where that senior might be better off? Is it a condo or senior housing?
Yeah. What I do is I go in and I assess sort of where they are today, and then I listen to them and I try to hear where they like to be. Sometimes it's resistance that I hear, and then it takes a while to sort of break through and understand what they really want. But most of the time, they just want someone where they're not alone, and someone that they can relate to. And we found that when we're able to move into an area that's generally where more people like them, then they have a better, they accept things better. They have a better life, and usually a longer life, if they're able to enjoy where they're going. Mm-hmm. So I have to assess the situation. Then I have to make sure that their decisions are going to be sound and not going to be in conflict with their family. So my client is the mature adult. However, I have to make sure that there are no other barriers involved. And if there are barriers involved, then I have to break down those barriers before I can get through. But it's a lot of psychological things going on, but it's really worth it in the end because it's very rewarding. So not only do we deal with the real estate side and the psychological side, but we also have to sort of expose or just let them know the different housing options that are available for their point or their point of need. And we also have to educate them with as far as the financial responsibilities and the financial options that are there for them, whether it's IRA if there's involved, or whether it's 401k, or whether it's just Social Security. and whether they're using a reverse mortgage to buy something or not. So there are different avenues that we were trained to, I guess, make them aware of. And there's some common sense things that you learn along the way as well.
Well, I can see that there is definitely a niche there of being a senior real estate a specialist, in the sense that they always say the next best thing to knowing the right answer is knowing how to ask the right question. So I would imagine, based on what you just described, that because of your special training, you know the type of questions that are important to that senior. That, not to badmouth, there's a lot of great real estate salespeople, but they're interested. Here is the bathroom, here, blah, blah, blah.
And you know what? It changes every time. No person and no deal is exactly the same. Mm-hmm. So you sort of customize your questions as it relates to that person to get the best situation out of it.
Right.
You're right.
And the other aspect is, as I know, and having dealt with seniors from the pharmacy portion, that what you, as an outsider, think is, hey, okay, this is a vase, and so, well, big deal. But to that senior, that connects them to that special moment. It may have been a special occasion, and that is critical, that wherever you move, if it's a painting or what a special gift, that wherever they decide to go, that you probably place that in that new setting. Is that right?
Right. What I found to do is sort of to visualize things through their eyes, to try to see what they see, and then to try to understand the connection that they have to something. And then I'm able to understand, how to help them and how to get them to move forward. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, what's the usual situation? It's true in business, and it's true in almost every part of your life. The first thing is to identify where you are. You are here, okay? Now, where do you want to be? And because Milton Duerod has gotten this special real estate training as a specialist, you can visualize with that person to where you are going to be, and how you can really not totally abort yourself from what you have found special in your life, but
right.
into the new setting.
And the key is, because I have that experience, I've already been there. It's just I have to find a way to get them there and get them to realize and get them to see how wonderful a move is. Mm-hmm. Some people are more resistant. Some people are more accepting than others, quite frankly. Some people are looking forward to a move, whether they're downsizing or whether they're going to assisted living or whether they're going to skilled nursing. They're looking forward to something. And some people are just totally resistant. So you just have to weigh every situation a little bit differently.
And you have to know sort of when to push and when to pull. Is that
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And they're opposite, in case you haven't noticed. Okay. And I can't help but think I'm about to give you another title, Mr. Milton Duerod.
Oh, no, not that.
You're like a futurist, where you anticipate the future for that individual and how they can take it along with the past. And no matter how you flower it, I remember from my first move from our first house to, you talk about a change. Everybody that claims, they say, I love change, I love change. I hate to tell you, change is not exactly...
Well, moving is in the top 5 of the greatest stressors anyway.
Right.
So that as much as you can allay those stresses and allay those fears, then you end up in a much better situation.
I see. Well, it's been said the only person that really likes change is a baby in a wet diaper. And unfortunately, we've run out of time, and I only have enough time to leave with one of my favorite thoughts. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. And that's why we call it the present. Please enjoy your present by looking at life with the bright side of aging.